Today we are reading Danza by Duncan Tonatia and Amalia Hernandez and El Ballet Folklorico de Mexico. Amalia Hernandez was born in Mexico City in 1917, and everyone assumed that she would grow up to be a school teacher like her mother and her grandmother. Even Amy, as everyone called her, accepted that. But one afternoon, while her family was on vacation, Amy saw a pair of dancers in the town square. They stomped and they swayed to the live music. The dances that they performed had been danced by people of that area for generations. Amy was hooked. She made a decision she was going to become a dancer herself.
Amy twirled in the living room and whirled in the kitchen. Amelia scolded her father, a stern military man, but her mother encouraged Amy's interest in the arts, and one day her father gave in. He had a studio built in their home and hired the best dance teachers he could find. After school, Amy studied ballet with Madame Dambray, who had danced with the Paris Opera, and Professor Zybrin, who had danced with Pavlov's world-renowned Russian ballet. World-renowned means known across the world. Amy worked on her technique and made sure she was always pointing her feet. She perfected the different structured positions and became an accomplished ballerina. Accomplished means successful or good at what you do. In 1939, two dancers from the United States visited Mexico, where Amy had lived at. They performed a new style of dance called modern. Amelia was deeply impressed. The movements were expressive, but could be jarring when compared to the delicate movements of ballet. Amy met Waldine, one of the modern dancers, and began
With her. She also continued practicing ballet. Amy was a very talented and disciplined. In time, she became a dance teacher and a choreographer herself. A choreographer is a person who helps dance steps and arranges them together to create new dance pieces. In 1952, after rehearsing for months, Amy and other dancers gave a performance. They presented many different dances, but the one the audience clapped for the most was a piece called Sones de Michoacán. Amy was the choreographer, and the dance was similar to the original dance that she had seen in the town square when she was a little girl. Do you think that she has what it takes to become a professional dancer? Amy had an idea. She decided that she would create ballets based on folkloric dances from different regions of Mexico. She was so excited that she formed her own company with 7 other dancers. Amy began to travel the villages all around the country to learn as much as she could about the area's traditional dances. She read about the history of each place and talked with elders. When possible, she participated in the dances herself. She paid special attention to the steps, the music, and the outfits that people wore. After returning home, Amy would go to the dance studio. The dances, veils she saw in the villages were for ceremonial purposes, like celebrating a patron saint or hoping for a good harvest. Other times, the dances happened so people could have fun and meet new friends. However, the dance pieces Amy was creating were meant to be performances for audience to watch in a theater. Amy used her skills as a choreographer and her knowledge of both ballet and modern dance to make pieces innovative and beautiful. She made sure the dancers wore dazzling costumes and that there was dramatic lighting and spectacular backdrops. A choreographer is a person who makes dance routines. Audiences loved the folkloric ballets, and Amelia's dance company quickly became very famous. In 1954, they performed on the Function de Gala television show. They danced on the show every week for more than 60 weeks. The company grew to include 20 dancers, and then 50. The company's repertoire, or stock of dances, included ballets based on mestizo ballets, and like the sons Jericos from Veracruz. Mestizo is the combination of Amerindian, European, and African traditions. In this ballet, musicians dressed in white played the harp and guitars as the dancers stomped on a tarima. Repertoire is a stock of different dances.
The company's repertoire also included ballets based on indigenous dances like the La Danza del Venado from the Yaqui in the Sonoran Desert, and Los Quetzales from the Nahuas and the Totonaco people in the Valley of Mexico. Do you think that you would enjoy watching these dances in person? Some of the company's ballets were not based on traditional dances but were originally pieces inspired by Mexico's pre-Columbian past. Amy wanted to celebrate the history of her country. She looked at the sculptures and art the ancient civilians, like the Aztecs and the Maya, had created. She conceived dance steps for ballets like the La Gran Tenochtitlan based on that art. Some ballets were inspired by more recent history and music like the polka or the waltz, which were popular in the wealthy in the 19th century, or by corridos, which were popular with the poor at the beginning of the 20th century. Amy would often dance as Guanagualo, a fierce female soldier of the time. Have you heard of any of these dances before? The company became a great success not only in Mexico but abroad too. In 1959, the Mexican government asked it to represent Mexico in the Pan American Games. These games are similar to the Olympics, but only athletes from the Americas compete. It was a great honor to be a part of such an important event. That year, Amy decided to call the company El Ballet Folkloric de Mexico, or Mexico's Folkloric Ballet. The company became truly international in 1961 when it won the first prize at the prestigious Festival of Nations in Paris. Famous ballets and important dance troupes from all over the world compete at the event. After the folkloric ballet won, it was invited to tour in Europe. Later on, it visited Japan and Australia. The dancers even performed next to the Great Sphinx in Egypt. Do you think that going international is a big deal for them? To be touring the world was exciting for Amy, but it was not simple to arrange. The company needed transportation for 50 or so dancers, musicians, and sound and lighting technicians, and more than 3 tons of costumes. Amy decided to stop dancing so she could focus on choreographing and directing the company. She was now like a general, much like her military father, supervising all the different people involved in the folkloric ballet and making sure the shows came out perfectly. The company had so many engagements that Amy had to create 2 groups, one to travel around the world and one to offer performances in Mexico. In 1968, Amy opened a dance school. Her brother, who was an architect, designed the building, which housed studios and classrooms. At the school, students could learn folkloric ballet dances and also ballet and modern dance. After the dancers who studied at the school became professionals in Amelia's company. As the years passed, Amy continued teaching and supervising the folkloric ballet's rehearsals. She had become a school teacher after all, like her mother and her grandmother. An architect is someone who builds buildings. And do you think that Amelia is happy that she finally got her dance studio? Amelia Hernandez passed away November 5, 2000, but her legacy lives on. El Ballet Folkloric de Mexico performs every Wednesday and Saturday at the Palacio de Bellas Artes and the Palace of Fine Arts in Mexico City. They have been doing so without interruption for more than 50 years. The company also continues to tour internationally. Today there are thousands of Mexican folkloric dance groups, both professional and amateur, in Mexico and the United States. Perhaps you've seen one of them at your school or in your neighborhood for Cinco de Mayo. Maybe you've even dressed as a chero and danced El Jabre Tapatio. I know I have. Amy inspired generations of dancers to perform these dances. She made the folkloric dances of Mexico known around the world, and she encouraged people of Mexican origin to feel pride in their roots and in their traditional dances. Wrap-up questions. How well did you like this book? Do you like to dance or have any cultural dances? Last one is, what's your dream and how do you want to achieve it? That's all for the day.